Well, a little history made in the Dublin Rain this afternoon. It's the first episode of The Irish Edge. It's Johnny Ward with you, and thanks to our sponsor, Boyle Sports, for bringing this show over the course of 2026 and hopefully beyond. I was going to say I was joined by the Examiner's Tommy Lyons, but you've left the Irish Examiner, Tommy, and a trend in journalism, in sports journalism, in racing journalism of late. People are leaving the print, I suppose, sphere. You were how long in the Examiner?
Full time, I was 10.5 years in that role, and I was with the Examiner maybe 4 or 5 before that, doing freelance stuff in the racing and the greyhound side, obviously. But
that's a long. So basically, what were the last 3 weeks like, where you didn't have to go to meetings, you didn't have to tip horses, you didn't have to get up out of bed like the way you used to anyway, with a long slog ahead?
Yeah, I have a long slog, all right, with the kids and that sort of stuff. That hasn't changed one bit. But the opportunity came to take redundancy, and it came up a few years ago, and it wasn't on my radar. And when it came up again, I was like, yeah, I really think it's time to do something different. I mean, it's ridiculous for me, I think, to be saying something like it feels like a young man's game, but there's a lot of travelling involved, a lot of being away from home involved. I mean, I was doing, I think, 120 days a year on track. I calculated there a few years back. I didn't bother to update it. They added meetings, and some of them were obviously added in Munster. I did all the Munster tracks. I did Galway, Leopardstown, Punchestown, Fairyhouse, Cheltenham, obviously. There were some great things about it, don't get me wrong, but the thought of another year of all that grind. I mean, the greatest example I give you, to my mind, is that at times it nearly sucked the life out of you because you had to go through some of it. Like, take Tramore as a track, and in one way I'm dissing Tramore, and the opposite, and another way I'm going to actually be really positive about it. I hated working Tramore. We were in a porta cabin at the back of the winner's enclosure. It wasn't what you call plush in any way. I didn't mind that. It wasn't supposed to be like that. I mean, you were doing a day's work anyway. It didn't really matter too much. But the standard of racing in general wasn't great. And yet, anybody I ever said that to over the last few years, they're going, but we love going to Tramore. And I'm like, I know why you love Tramore. Because the management now and the previous management teams have done a brilliant job at Tramore. It's a fantastic track in terms of what they do to get. You can go in there and you can have probably 10 different cuisines of food, whatever cuisine you like. It's probably there. They make a huge effort with marquees. They get a huge effort to get local people in. The place is absolutely packed. You got to get down there early. And if you're not in there trying to ride about 80 rated horses, you can love Tramore. And I want to get back to that again.
Hopefully you will, because it's work. Like, it is work when you go to those meetings. I was the same over the years. You're put into kind of an old press room, and it is work. And I suppose Irish racing is relentless. Like, it's nearly every day now.
They're nearly 400 meetings a year. I mean, that if you suggested that 20 years ago, they'd be laughing at you. Are you serious? Are you joking? Like, how would we even do that? It's about getting back. Even though, like, my childhood, even though I was born and lived in Dublin for 30 years, Galway would have been my favourite track, because we were going there since we were very young. My parents are west of Ireland. We've gone to Galway since I was 4. Like, Galway, even though it is a grind when you're working, I mean, you have to be on track early. So I'm talking about maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock, and you're leaving about 9 o'clock that night. It's a grind, but I still loved it because Galway itself, the atmosphere, the festival, even walking into Galway, it's an impressive place. Like, I absolutely love that. And Cheltenham the same. Like, you're there before 9 o'clock and you're leaving there probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock that night. But it's still great because it's so good racing. But when you're doing that, like, people don't realise, you go to Killarney, which is another lovely track, a lovely town, but the racing starts at maybe 5:15, and you're there from 2 o'clock or 2:30, and you've probably been working in the hotel before that. So I mean, I don't run down. I needed a change to freshen up, because, like, I love horse racing since I was, before I could walk probably. I was, when we were going to race tracks, I absolutely loved it, and I was losing a bit of the love of it because I was doing too much of it, year on year.
And now your love is back because you're on the Irish Edge.
Well,
and, like, I have to say now, like, I must thank Boyle Sports. Boyle Sports is giving money back as a free bet if you're second to the SB favourite on Cheltenham Trials Day, 18 plus, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and UK online only. Terms and conditions apply. Make sure to gamble responsibly. And it is Cheltenham Trials weekend. We've a really, really good mares race in Ireland as well. I have to say now, I found my love of Cheltenham was definitely definitely receding in recent years, and I feel for whatever reason this season it's come back, and I love the makeup, the amount of open races, the Gold Cup for example. And briefly, are you in that boat as well?
I never lost the love of Cheltenham, because I think that's the core of racing. I mean, even no matter what we try to do and how we try to take away the importance of it, everybody still aims for Cheltenham. So I've loved it no matter how much work was involved. I put myself through the hardship in the last maybe 4 or 5 years of driving over, and like that's a full day on the Sunday driving over, and by the time you drive straight across Wales and over to Gloucester and whatever. But absolutely loved it, because I got chances to stay in stunning villages around the area.
With the likes of Winchcombe in these places, like something out of Emmerdale Farm.
I stayed in Stanton there last year, and there was a pub up the hill, and I mean it was about 200 yards away, but you felt fit after getting to the pub because it's purely straight uphill. But just a beautiful village. I was in Stowe on the Wold a couple of years ago. Beautiful place. I mean, just it gave us an opportunity, and I was trying to take advantage of that as much as possible to go and see as much of it. But look, at the core of it was the racing. You're doing long. I never lost the love of Cheltenham. I didn't lose the love of racing, but I just found some of it became too much of a grind. And as you asked me the question at the start, like what the last 3 weeks, like they were great, because you could just sit back and go
and enjoy it
and actually start to enjoy it again. Yeah,
we're going to go through 5 races at Cheltenham, and the Solarina Mares Hurdle, for which we've declarations on Saturday at Fairyhouse, and then the Limestone Lad Hurdle we'll briefly talk about at Naas. We record this before declarations for Sunday, but we have all the decks for Saturday, and the first place we're going to go to is the 1240. This is the JCB Triumph Trial, and this is for the juveniles. Now, I suppose before we came on air, you were talking, Tommy, about you're keen to take on favourites. It's one of those meetings where the favourites do really have kind of strong credentials. Maestro Conti, when Precious Man scored the last day, I just felt it was interesting. Dan Skelton said Maestro Conti, there's not much between them, but this Maestro Conti is more of a stamina horse. He kind of he won the last day on good ground at Kempton. So he looks like the rain that will fall in Cheltenham will suit him. Having said that, it's not a penalty kick of a race taking on Manila Yoga, and Manila Yoga, this is fascinating as well, because beat Active Innocence in that form. I mean, the whole Nicky Henderson Paul Nicholls thing, even after the race, where obviously Active Innocence had gone to from Paul Nicholls to Nicky Henderson, and Paul Nicholls, he only knows one way to talk, and that's basically without a filter pretty much, and he just says what he thinks, and he says, well, give me extra pleasure to beat a horse that I used to train, as you would. Manila Yoga could be good.
Yeah, Manila Yoga could be very good. I don't mind. I like Paul Nicholls saying that and being that way. That's fine.
11-10 at the moment with Boyle Sports Maestro Conti.
I look at Johnny. I think that has to be the price, because the reason being on debut in the UK, he had the race won so far out. It was impressive. I mean, that's what I liked most about it.
He was sent off 8-13, well expected as well.
He was a touch keen, but you still loved the way he finished the race after being keen through the early part of the race. If he settles down a little bit more, I mean, he looks a proper horse. I mean, Manila Yoga, when I watched the first, I thought, obviously he ran away with an Academy Hurdle. I don't know what you think of Academy Hurdle, but
I have no issue with them. I think they're fine.
They're fine.
They fit into the system.
There would never be a race I'd be keen to be having a bet on.
There's something different, and it's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. Things have to be. You have to shake things up all the time. I mean, I don't have a particular issue with them. Some trainers actually, I talked to during the year, actually loved them. Or last year, they loved them. I think they're a great idea. Manila Yoga won an Academy Hurdle doing handstands. Found it harder on the UK debut, but like he was a 3-year-old taking on a 6-year-old, and they were a long way clear of the third as well. I mean, I thought the first and second came out of that with real credit. I just thought there was a bit more of a swagger to Maestro Conti's performance. One Horse Town is an interesting horse in it, because he has plenty of experience. He'll go from the front. He only knows one way. It feels, even though he's won Grade 2s, it feels like a step up. Because you're starting to get into the meat of the season, where you're getting the better horses are beginning to emerge and that sort of stuff. But you know what, the style of racing he has means you can put less experienced horses under severe pressure quite easily. The style of racing he has, if he was to jump well enough, he never really seemed to get away from them the last time. Is that because the quality of horses catching up with him maybe at this stage of the season? Maybe that's the case, or whatever. Maybe he's had a few runs. He's rated 131. It's a reasonable standard. I mean, Manila Yoga has been given a rating, and it's 129, obviously receiving weight in this race. I think One Horse Town, I think he's probably going to set it up for something else. Like Tontella too, the filly, she won impressively last time out, but she's very small. You feel by looking at her that the standard, that as the standard of the race goes up, the effort in jumping is going to impact her. It's going to take a little bit more of a toll.
It's kind of the thing as well when you go racing, when you see them in, and people underestimate this, when you see the horse in the parade and you're like, I just could not back that horse on that ground. What about Lord Byron, who was with Aiden, right? Finished second to Dipton Moonlight, who of Emmett Mullins is up in Navan in the mile and 6, like real sort of trial. Actually ran behind Genealogy first time. Was fancied for Faye Bramley first time at Exeter, finished second. Didn't do a great deal wrong. It's going to be a big price, and will definitely be staying up the hill.
Yeah, you could. I could see why you're making maybe an each way case.
Would you be against Aidan O'Brien horses in general?
Oh yeah,
yeah, going on to another.
Yeah, yard. I don't think I'd be taking them to try and prove them.
Yeah. Well, he trains them quite hard. Like,
yes.
He asks them. You even see the juveniles. He asks them very hard questions.
He does, and he knows he's so good that he knows what to do with a horse to get a bit more out of him if he feels that they're not producing everything at home or in the track or whatever else. He knows what to do. I mean, there's no stone unturned in Ballydoyle. You'd imagine when a horse comes out there, it has a bit of a shelf life in terms of you get something good out of it pretty quickly, or you don't get anything out of it at all. I think what I mean, that sort of way. I mean, you look at down the years, even the flat horses they used to go to South Africa a lot one time and different places. I never really worried about Aidan is looking going, I think that's going to improve. I never think he ever worried about it. Hardy Stuff is interesting in this race. What do you make of Hardy Stuff?
Hardy Stuff for me, we were just talking about this beforehand. Some of these horses, you do wonder what they're going for.
Yeah.
Is it the Fred Winter as an option? Because the Triumph actually looks. The Triumph looks very, very open classy, at the moment. Very two very classy horses like of JP's in Ireland. He beat Ole Ole and Munsif the last day. He was 20-1, but that was a decent maiden. I'm just not exactly sure. Is this a sighter for the festival? Maybe.
I think it's probably. I think he's the type of horse that a couple of points I thought from the last day. I liked the performance, actually. I did like it. I thought he would possibly be the type that would jump better in a better race, and maybe he'd jump a little bit better here. It's maybe not, probably numbers wise, it probably isn't big enough and strong enough race that way to help him as much as I'd like it to. I have my notes I have written down is probably a Fred Winter horse. He stays strongly though, and that'll be a help here. Could I see him maybe upsetting the better fancied ones? I'd have him ahead of Tontella too, and possibly One Horse Town. But I think really and truly, even though I'd love to go away from it, I think it's between the top two in the betting.
Yeah, so that brings us on to the 225. This is the Cotswold Chase. This is one race. I'm not sure about the betting here, and it's tricky to price it up. But you've L'Homme Presse, who won a similar-ish renewal in the game style last year. You've Flooring Porter, who's basically been off for 486 days, and this was almost like an about turn to running this race in the first place. But has lots of ability, loves Cheltenham. And then you've Spillane's Tower. Now, I tipped him up somewhat against my better judgment, 2 runs back over hurdles, just on the basis that he hurdles perfectly well and he was running off 130. He was disappointing. It was a lot more like it behind El Fabiolo. Now, JP has 4 horses running at Cheltenham, I think, all different riders, which is kind of funny with the Cobden news and all of that. But Jack Kennedy rides Spillane's Tower, so actually rode him when second to Facta File, which was possibly his best performance. I'm still not entirely sure what this horse's best trip is or where he's at, but I'm inclined to think, and I feel Boyle Sports 5-1 might be the top pricer. I'm nearly willing to take a chance on him because he's had 2 runs already. He can't not be fit. This could be sort of his cup final with the view to maybe run in the Gold Cup, for which is a massive prize. I just felt, I know you like the favourites here. Is Grey Dawning bulletproof at 4-7?
I don't think he's bulletproof, and I don't like backing him at 4-7. I would never I've nothing against the horse, but he's fine. I never thought looking at him, this is a horse that could develop into a Gold Cup horse or anything like that. And L'Homme Presse's worst performance at Cheltenham was when 4th in the Gold Cup. He's won 3. He's been runner up once in 5 runs at Cheltenham. The only thing with L'Homme Presse is the last day, I didn't like the performance. He lost touch in the race too easily, and he stayed on late to kind of grab second place just about. 11
years of age now.
11 years of age. That type of run as well takes a toll. Don't like it. I don't like it. I mean, I'd be of the opinion if L'Homme Presse is second favourite, you'd probably get you might get a match bet with Spillane's Tower, or you might get it without the favourite, and you'd have to be taking a chance with Spillane's Tower, because if you can't finish in front of L'Homme Presse, I don't know where we stand with Spillane Tower if he can't.
Well, he's rated 164. He's getting £6 off Grey Dawning, who's rated 166. Now, I definitely feel you can read way too much into ratings, and sometimes I fall into that category myself. But like, this horse is just turned 8. He should still have some upside. So like, I feel if you're giving him one more chance, he should be able to produce it here.
It was a much better run the last day, as you said, behind El Fabiolo. That was a much improved effort, because the one behind Letos was...
It was terrible. Now,
dismal.
He did, in fairness, at Punchtown over on Yielding Ground over 2-3. He wasn't quite quick enough, but I'd nearly take that as a positive with a view to this.
Yeah, with the trip, because his only previous run, runs of the trip were in the King George and then in Punchestown. He won a novice.
Excuses. He won as a novice at Punchestown. But I think the King George, I'd give him some excuses as well.
Yeah, but they'd run thin, fairly quickly. You'd kind of run out of them. I would think that I want to see plenty of spark in this race, or
Would you be inclined to back him at 5s?
I'd nearly take a chance. I'd take a chance rather than I can see why Grey Dawning is short priced, because I mean he's got the measure of Long Presse, and you'd hope that Spillane's Tower would have the measure of Long Presse too. I think maybe take a chance. It wouldn't be a confident bet, because again, like we're saying, if he doesn't run well here, where do we stand with him? We don't know, and we're going to learn a lot in this race. I think we're going to learn a lot in this race. I hope we are, and that it's a proper race between himself and Grey Dawning, because I think it'll probably boil down to Long Presse. Obviously, if you want to ask the question why he could win, is because he's so good around Cheltenham and he's so honest and he tries so hard. But should that be good enough against those two horses? I don't think so.
On then to the 3 o'clock, the Unibet Hurdle. I think it is fair to say Tommy and I, we major on Irish racing. So when you're going to the 3 o'clock at Cheltenham, we 4 British runners, and Poneros was entered in this. Would have been an intriguing one, a really, really intriguing one. Isn't running, but to be fair, the New Line and Sergino favourite and second favourite more or less in the champion hurdle. This to me almost boils down to Golden Ace. On the line through Golden Ace, Sergino simply wins this, and I do feel the New Line in a tactical race over 2-1. He nearly has to be vulnerable. I know you look at a horse like Hardy Eustace, horses who came back in trip as a senior hurdler and became top class or whatever, but I would have no issue with the New Line going to the Stayers Hurdle this year, for example. Sergino looks like he could basically win anything you want, just throw it at him. Now he's 2-5 with Boyle Sports. I'm completely with the sponsor on this. Or is the New Line value? Or can anything else happen in this race? Only 4 runners. This is a race for me. I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, look at it. Maybe.
Sorry, I have to start it. Was he beaten the last day when he fell the New Line?
No. Oh, in my opinion, he was going to win that race.
Okay. That's the big debate. Was he held? Because Anzadam didn't win.
No.
So
Anzadam came travelling, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously couldn't even beat Golden Ace. So you think the New Line would have won? It's debatable, I suppose.
Yeah, and he only barely caught the top of the hurdle too. It was one of those ones you're going a bit of a rattle, and it's a bit unlucky.
Well, if you're Harry Skelton, right, and you're riding to beat the favourite, and you have to be honest, you're riding a race here to beat Sergino, what do you do?
With Sergino was so good the last day. What do? You have to be positive again. And are you going to be going out there thinking about a fall? I doubt it. I mean, I hear people talking about that, and how the last thing you can have here is the New Line falling again. You can't go out there thinking about that.
They're hurdlers, they're horses, they're extremely well looked after. Like they love the game. I mean,
well, if that's on your mind, you're beaten.
You're in the wrong. Exactly.
You're beaten straight. You're beaten straight away. The New Line is a horse I do love. I think there's plenty more to come from. Did I think it was going to be over 2 miles when I was watching them last year? I didn't think it was.
Well, also, Sergino is so uncomplicated the way that he races. I just don't see how he's not going to do him for toe, and he could be an honourable length and a half second. Can he beat him?
Sergino the last day was a bit too keen.
First run back and all that.
Yeah, and yet he jumped really well despite that,
and despite being chased. Do you know what I mean? So that's a big question.
Despite having been chasing, it's a question mark as well. And again, he finished off his race so well. I mean, he hadn't been asked. He hadn't been asked fully, and he broke the track record. I mean, not that I to be honest about it, I really don't care about times. I know some people will hate that. There's too many complications. I don't have the time in my life to figure out all these times.
I have to disagree with you there. No, I'm not being to times, but like as somebody who cycles even a bit recreationally, I don't think like the actual speed that horses can go, that when you ask a horse what's the fastest you can go here, I think in terms of data there's so much like what's the jockey's heart rate in a race, why is it much higher here than it was the last day, how wide did that horse go, did he cover way more ground? So I think data is actually something that's underused, but I disagree with you on that. Now I'm traditional, but I disagree with you in terms of times.
I'm perfectly happy for it to exist and for people to use it, but I'm one of these people who stupidly analyses things too much, and then you say, well, for many years they were giving us times, and then the course with the wrong distances and every sort of thing, and you're going, so many things can change, and then they're moving out rails and moving in rails and all this sort of stuff, and I'm going, how can you keep on top of that? Obviously the way most people talk about times, they compare it to races on the same day and try to get a gauge.
A lot of variables.
Too many variables for my liking.
So you're not reading too much into the course record, but you just can't knock this horse. You can pick a hole in the new line. I don't see where. Does he win the Champion Hurdle?
He probably does. He probably does. I mean,
Amsterdam coming there in the snaff. And he just looks at him.
But is Amsterdam that class, that good?
He's the type of horse, like I've done this before in the race, where I just think you need a strong pace and a traveller in the race. But you might not get a strong pace in the Champion Hurdle. Like the race was a mess last year. And Sergino, I just cannot pick a hole in this horse. And I'm glad that he's healthy and he's getting there. I love the fact we've so many British bankers actually maybe this year. And I mean
and funnily enough, I've had this argument with people over the last number of years where I think Irish dominance is actually quite a bad thing in some ways.
Absolutely a bad thing. In many ways.
And every Irish trainer who has winners and strives to have winners will say that's rubbish, because we're just trying our best. And yes, and fair play to you for every race you win, but it will turn off the British racegoer and racing enthusiasts, and they'll end up not wanting to come to Cheltenham, because then all these negative things we hear about prices of Guinness and the price of the sandwich and the price of everything else. I actually thought, we were talking about it last year when I was in Cheltenham, people saying it was about £100 for the club enclosure. I think it's around about that price. I actually, for the first time in years, I got a chance on one of the days, it was kind of snowy in the morning, I got a chance to actually walk around, it was Tuesday morning I think, walk around the track. Like the infrastructure and the amount of effort that's put in, and the cost of what they have to put in just to set up Cheltenham for that festival is huge. And look at, and I'm not telling you whether £100 is too much or too little, but there's a huge cost involved in what they do. Like we went down last week and sat down with a couple of friends and had a chance to stop and eat something at one of the kind of, it was in a marquee. It was beautiful food. I couldn't believe it. I was actually very surprised at it.
The favourite wins.
Well, the favourite does win because the favourite is so good, but I do like New Line as a horse.
You're not put off. Say if he finishes second, you're not necessarily put off with his Champion Hurdle credentials.
Well, I am a bit. The New Line finishes second.
Yeah. Do you think he can?
Well, I wonder does he go to Champion Hurdle? But then have you decided? You decided last year was stay hurdling, and with the Champion Hurdle in mind, you don't stay hurdling with the 2.5 mile hurdle in Aintree in mind. That's not what you do with you. That's not a reason to stay another season over hurdles. You kind of go, I'm either going to go chasing or I want to win a Champion Hurdle. And I think
he's 5-4 now, Gino, for the champion, and 4-1 New Line. So you are really you're kind of scratching to get a horse that big. 5-4 and 4-1. They take up like pretty much 50% of the book there for the Champion Hurdle. More. So you got to, I guess you got to back Sergino now if you think he's going to win on.
Yeah, I'm not going to back him at 4-9. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people will think that's great value for the weekend and that's picking up money and let them away at it. But I'm not going to back him at 4-9. I like the New Line. I think you can give him a race. I really want him to give him a race because I want him to be encouraged enough to take him on again. If he doesn't beat Sergino, to take him on again in Cheltenham. If we have a race without the New Line, a Champion Hurdle without New Line and Sergino's, what price is he tomorrow? On Sunday morning.
Exactly. And the show just keeps going on at Cheltenham. Like it's class, Tommy. The 3:35, the Cleve. And I suppose the JP McManus bingo-ish situation with Cobden not riding there means that Nico de Boinville keeps the ride on post 3. Very briefly, Harry Cobden, what did you make of the whole thing? Do you think he's the bee's knees?
I think he's an excellent.
Do you think he needs does he even need a rider to be wearing the green and gold? Why can't he just use the jockeys at each yard?
I don't have any issue with it at all, or even how it happened. I mean, I know a lot of people are kind of saying, they feel sorry for Mark Walsh. Mark Walsh got a really good stint out of it and was a really loyal jockey to them and really good for them and won as much as as you'd hope to win. As if you're going out starting out as a jockey now, a young lad who's riding out now and hoping to get his first ride, and he thinks I could win those things. I mean, it's dream stuff. So I like Mark Walsh had a great run, and not everybody's happy with how it happened. sure, you're entitled to do that. It's like any sport. I mean, I always remember I'm a Liverpool fan, and I think that when Bobby Firmino was let go, who was one of the greatest footballers to ever play for them, like gifted in how he could play the game, he didn't want to leave. But they kind of decided he was a bit sour about it personally, but he didn't let that out. But like the club decided, well, we need to change it. We need to up it, and he's getting to a certain stage of his career now, and we need to kind of freshen things up. And they got rid of who, to me, was one of the best players to ever play for Liverpool. So it's a similar kind of thing. Mark Walsh has been excellent for them, but Harry Cobden is a pretty special jockey.
Good words from Tommy, and we saw last week with John Bond and Ilete Tomp, you can just keep going at it, and sometimes results will change. Ilete Tomp didn't perform. John Bond, who I'd kind of given up on at that stage, he won because Ilete Tomp didn't show up. Strong leader, can he beat An Post Trois? I have to say, I've really taken to An Post Trois as a horse. The way he travels in a race, there's something about the way, I do feel Nico gets on very well with him. I thought he was brilliant on him at Newbury. It was a little bit easier at Ascot. He's hard to oppose. He's a shade of odds on with Boylesports, 10 to 11. I do feel you might get better than that on the day. I'd probably advise to hold out on that. But 7 to 2 strong leader. It is off level weights again, so it's kind of hard to see how he reverses the form.
Yeah, there's a few things about the race. Tilem is obviously, it's disappointing that he wasn't declared because he's the French horse who had such good form, but he hadn't run for 800 days. I wouldn't have known where we stood with him, but it would have been certainly an interesting addition to the race. An Post Trois, he has been very good. I actually think that when he was beaten by Jimmy Desai at Cheltenham, I think that maybe he was so far ahead. This sounds ridiculous, but he was so far ahead, and he's quality-wise as well. He kind of couldn't settle where they wanted him to settle, and he kind of went through the race a bit too quickly, and kind of it cost him a bit. Now Jimmy Desai has turned into a very good horse, but since he stepped up to 3 miles here this year, he's been unbeaten. Did he idle in front the last day? Is that probably what happened? Strong Leader is tired of looking at the back of him, I'd say, and also Strong Leader, I don't think he's ever won in Cheltenham. For all that he's a smart horse, and he's an honest horse, he hasn't won in Cheltenham, and that is a concern. I mean,
can Mashan too do it? And 7-year-old rate 144 comes out of winning the hurdle race the last day here.
He has a great way of travelling, and he has a great honest attitude. He has to be considerably better than his rating if he's going to win it. Maybe because the potential is progressive. I think he looked smart early on. He's 7-year-old now. Not a huge amount of racing. I just thought he can improve again, but you're probably talking about maybe a stone, Johnny. Like Doddy the Great, I talked earlier on about Long Press. I haven't what I didn't like type of race. I didn't like the last day because he gave everything, and it was a hard race rather than travelling and trying to pick up late. He was under pressure. Doddy the Great had a horrific time the last day. He jumped off quite prominent, disappeared out the back of the screen nearly, and plugged on really hard. It's the type of race that leaves a bit of a mark, especially when you're rising 10. Gowl Road won the race last year, jumps well, stays okay. I don't think his finishing efforts this year have been as good as they have been in previous years, so I can't see him repeating it. And then you have an outsider who to be honest about it, probably doesn't have a chance. Marchand too, I'd like to take a chance maybe that might be second, maybe without the favourite, because I think the favourite travels well, and actually the deeper he got into the race the last day, the long walk, he travelled better.
It may be that a lot of the value is gone for Cheltenham now, but if you like An Post Trois, 5s for the stairs hurdle with Boyles, and that's it's sort of 14 to 1 bar 4 in the race with Teahupoo. Finally, kind of, I suppose, given the credit that he maybe merits after Leopardstown. So, and Honesty Policy, who we'll talk about, I suppose, over the course of the next few weeks. Second favourite. So that brings us on to the last of our Cheltenham races to look at. Now, I did mention Active Innocence earlier in the show. As Tommy pointed out, like you've a situation here where Active Innocence, who's a 5-year-old, taking on Nelly Yoga, who's a 3-year-old. It's quite unusual. Now they're obviously 4 and 6 now, the way it works, but I do wonder, is he a small bit vulnerable here at the prices? Heads Up goes over for John McConnell. I mean, the more you look at Heads Up, he's run into Bambino Fever, Calypso's Chance, and No Drama This End. Now, maybe No Drama This End might not be as good as Paul Nicholls seems to say he is, but he looks special to me. And Heads Up goes over. Danny Mullins takes the ride, which is almost I think a nod to the fact that he's likely to be ridden forward again. He had them all on the stretch a long way in the rain at Cheltenham. The last, he just couldn't last it out. It was actually sort of all out to finish third in the end. Happily here, Tommy, Tommy. We've 8 runners, so you can get involved each way if you do want to take on this favourite. I do kind of tend to agree with you, though. I don't think Active Innocence did a great deal wrong last time. They're miles clear of everything else.
Yeah.
Is he short at 6-4 here? Which is pretty much top price, I think.
You kind of want to take on some of these short ones. I know you said that the favourites have a good record, and maybe he's going to go and win it. They were a long way. Like, if you want to try find faults, you can say he's forward going, carries his head a little bit high, but he has a good attitude. Like, he was trying to give £18 to the 3-year-old the last day, and that might, if Manila Yoga goes and wins the first race or puts in a nice performance earlier on in the card, you'd be saying Active Innocence shorten up from 6-4 probably. But Taurus Bay is a smart horse too. There's been plenty to like. What I do love to see is Taurus Bay went from €26,000 in the sales to 155,000 sterling. It just means to me, your confirmation is all right. You look like an athlete. You look like the right type of horse that people want to go racing. To kind of find people are looking for a top class horse. I love to see that. He travelled the last day. It's everything you like to see in a horse. He travelled at Aintree. He jumped well under pressure, which I really like, and he responded well to at the end of the race. There's nothing not to like. But heads up is interesting. Like, it was 2.5 the last day. It's effectively 2.5. It's almost 2.5 again this time. Is it a tiny bit too far? Bigger concern maybe John McConnell's National Hunt Horses. When's the last time he had a winner in National Hunt?
Not necessarily flying it.
I'd say it's October since he had a winner. Maybe.
In fairness, he didn't look like he was crying out for this trip.
Yeah,
that sort of intermediate trip the last day.
And that worries me a little bit. It's not far enough back. If this was a 2-2 race or something, I'd say, you know what, he can go off in front and maybe burn these off, because it's classy performance in the bumper last year, and like, no drama. I'm still not sure what to make of the bumper last year because of the way it was run. I know there's plenty of quality in it. Obviously, Bambino Fever, no drama. This end travelled into the straight, going very well in the bumper, and wasn't beaten all that far in the end. And he looks, to me, I'm like you, like, he's matured lovely. He looks a proper
beautiful horse.
Oh, he looks a cracking horse. I mean, Ollie Murphy.
He laughed at him the last day. Like, he laughed at him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. But he's laughed at nearly everything he's running against, to be honest about it. Actually, funnily enough, the Blue Room for Ollie Murphy, he was in the same race actually, or not the same race. He's behind no drama this end the last day as well. Made a mistake 2 out. Don't think it made much of a difference. What a gorgeous horse to go chasing with though down the line. Absolutely, the horse I'd be keeping an eye on, the Blue Room. But
so the 5 races Cheltenham have gone through. What would be your best? What's your best position or your best bet for the festival at this stage? Briefly, what's the horse you really like for the festival? For the Cheltenham Festival in 2020.
God, I haven't had a bet on. It yet. I'm not brilliant for anti-post. I'm okay. I do as it'll get a little bit closer. Oh, I don't know, Johnny. You put me on the spot with something here. There's too many. Do you know what I found the last maybe 3 or 4 years? Maybe it gone a little bit before that. Prices get so short so early because I know they're trying to offer this and that and non-run or no bet.
I'll throw one actually in El Kairos. Is the hype justified in the Supreme? Fastest horse not from, more or less Jack has ridden since
LeBake.
Not for you necessarily to go back the maiden hurdle route. I think.
Yeah, I'm
not fully sold yet.
Not if you want to ask me to take a short price about it. No, like plenty of speed. Is that what you wanted, Cheltenham? I don't know.
Okay, this brings us on to the 138 at Fairyhouse, the Solarina Mares Novice Hurdle. Now, we cannot mention another sponsor, but there's only one bookmaker who's actually priced this up yet, and the decks are only out a couple of hours. And it is 1-2 Old School Outlaw and 5-2 Place de la Nation. I think the odds are all wrong here. And I'll give you this, Tommy. They are all wrong because Old School Outlaw the last day, procured by JP McMahon since. People are reading too much into the fact that she beat Bambino Fever, who for me did probably need the run, and Willie's at that time, some of them certainly need the run a little bit. Radiator Springs, who was 11 lengths back in third, to be fair, did the job well, and Cornelian kind of backed up the form. I thought ran very well behind Bambino Fever. It looked a red hot mare's maiden, but we're in agreement as well about Place de la Nation. And it was interesting because I feel that the beauty of jumping hurdles is actually underplayed by people. If you watch Archibald jump a hurdle at speed, I think it's beautiful to watch. And Place de la Nation, even though she was 5s on when she beat Diva Briva at Thurles, Paul Townend, you were probably racing that day. It was definitely a day you'd be racing on the Southern Circuit. Paul Townend said, I couldn't get her jumping to be I suppose imposed on the race because she was 1-5 over 2-6.5 at Thurles. Then she was 1-16 at Fairyhouse. she flies her hurdles. She's 5-2 here, 1-2. Boyle Sports yet to price it up. For me, this is not going to be priced up like this at the off, and maybe I'm all wrong. Am I wrong?
No, I'm with you. I think the price of Plastel Nation is far too big relative to Old School Outlaw. What I love about
she also was a fourling fifth, by the way, with very little experience in the Triumph.
Yeah, but what you're saying, Johnny, is right. She is fast over hurdles, but what I love about her, and this to me is real old school, and it'll work over fences. Not that I'm worried about that at the moment. She drops back on her haunches properly and uses them properly. You know, just a natural way of doing it and springing herself forward. Now you might say, oh, they all do that, but she does it to me in an old school type of way that I used to love watching. And she's not an old store type. She's not that type of filly to look at, but she jumps like an old school type. I love it, absolutely love it, and it's rare to see it over hurdles. So what do we learn from their two runs this year? Not a huge amount, apart from that she's well, and she was winning and doing it right when Willie's horses maybe weren't firing on all cylinders, and they are stepping forward as you expect them to at this time of the season. I think Old School Outlaw was entitled to do what she did in the two runs. In Bambino Fever, as you say, I'd agree with you, and thought at the time maybe that she wasn't fully wound or whatever. So I mean, Old School Outlaw ran in the Aintree bumper won by Shaw Lynn, and actually led. She was trained by Gary Caldwell at the time. She travelled really well. And do you know what I loved about her, actually? She didn't give up in the last couple of furlongs when she was passed, when she could easily, oftentimes you see them in the lead and then they just started, go drift back through the field, end up beating 30 lengths, and you don't know what type of horse you've got. She stuck at it. She wasn't beaten a huge amount. She was well beat, but not a huge amount, 11 and a half lengths, I think. I liked her. And I tell you, the only thing that I'm kind of disappointed was I missed the prices. I did back her eventually, but I missed the prices in the bumper when she had her first run for Gordon in the listed bumper. Got on a bit later than I would have liked. She was entitled to win that on that form, if you could believe it. Why wouldn't you believe it? She was after having a good run behind Moody Clips before that, and the run over hurdles the last day. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, she beat Bambino Fever. Even if Bambino Fever wasn't right, it was a really good run. It's a terrific race. She's receiving £4 from Plastel Nation as well. That's
could tilt the balance.
It could, because they could both be very smart at the moment. Plastel Nation has a rating of 137.
Based on the Triumph, more or less.
No doubt, she's a lot better than that. I mean, actually, interesting on the Triumph. You mentioned Poneros earlier on because it was intended. It was entered for Cheltenham. I would have loved to have seen him there. I don't think he's 149 rated. I think I would have loved to have seen him there. I don't think he's ready for 149 or anything like the race he was going to be in. He might have helped the price maybe slightly. I think he's so keen. I think he's very much a work in progress. Whether that'll ever develop, I'm not sure.
So we'll wrap up with a few sort of bets from maybe elsewhere. I've just done a little bit of looking at Fairyhouse. There's one race on Sunday we a great race might look at as well. But just in relation to Fairyhouse, Plastel Nation at that price be all over. The 103 at Fairyhouse, Gringo Dobrel, I feel this is almost bar fall on that ground under Michael Kennelly, who won on the horse at Navan, was well backed. The 318 at Fairyhouse is a bit of an anecdote here. I was at Clonmel a few weeks ago. My missus was collecting me. We were going off to Cork for a couple of nights, and I was walking out kind of aimlessly, but walked outside of the track and was turning into the town, and this fella comes up with literally a one horse box behind him, and I was kind of looking. He goes, "Do you want a lift?" And I said, no, the girlfriend's on the way. I said, "How'd you get on?" He goes, "We won." So he brought one horse to races, and it was Martin Fitzgerald, and the horse was Our Uncle Jack. And he another winner then. I think he's next runner. And there were two men in the car, so I think it was Martin I was talking to. But it was just like this, we brought one horse to race. I think he was 10-1, and Martin walked the course that day, and he basically decided that Darragh O'Keefe rode him. He said the best place to go is just hug the rail. He absolutely bolted up. He's quite unexposed. He's quite a big horse, and the rise that he got on the ground, as bad as it'll be on that track, the 318 at Fairyhouse, I think he'll take a bit of stop. And Gordon has an interesting horse, first time out for him in the race. There is one race, maybe Sunday as well, Tommy, we can briefly touch on. This is the Grade 3 255 Novice Chase at Naas. Flicker of Hope is running there. He's a horse I like a lot, actually. And we also have the Limestone Lad Hurdle. We don't have Dex here. So in the 225, Back in Alien's a horse to keep an eye out for this year. Castle Lad, I think, would be vulnerable on the ground, but what else you like throughout the week? I'd
be interested to see if Blaze Away runs in that race in Naas on Sunday behind or against Flicker of Hope. The run beating Leon Presse last day in Cheltenham was impressive. I don't think it was as out of left field as maybe I thought.
No, just needed a trip.
Yeah, just needed a trip. So potentially, I don't think being put up from 138 to 140 now is necessarily, and obviously 138 was an English mark. I don't think it's been overburdened, Blazed Away. Just be interested if that runs. But Flicker of Hope is a smart horse, has developed really nicely. I love the way he's held his form for Mark Fahey over the last couple of years. Really smart sort. I'd respect him, but I'd just be interested in Blazed Away.
Best bet of the weekend, would you say?
Well, at the prices, you'd have to back Plastin and Nasty on and take a chance. I definitely would. I think she could be
prices,
could be exceptionally smart. Yeah.
Thanks very much to Tommy Lyons, as said, formerly of the Examiner, but he's freelance now, which means he can kind of have a lot more time to go through the form. Might even help your punting. Who knows? It might be that bit easier.
I hope so.
Yeah, I many days you're at the races and you're trying to maintain the mask of being professional when you've lost a few quid in a couple of races. And I find it funny when like you're doing the racing, but you're interviewing a trainer and he'll just give you like such confidence about a horse that you're totally thrown off guard, and then you're kind of thinking, how will I get a few quid on this horse? Please gamble responsibly, though, and do remember, genuinely gamble responsibly and enjoy the racing this weekend. You don't need to have a bet on every race. You certainly don't this weekend. Fantastic stuff. And you know, to paraphrase Brian Clough, you can at the Cheltenham Festival you can chuck your mares races in the bin. I think there's no place for them at all at Cheltenham Festival. We do not want mares running against each other at Cheltenham. They should be at places like Fairyhouse on Saturday. And when you get races like this, they're fantastic, but maybe that's for another day. Yeah, it's money back as a free bet if you're second to the SP favourite on Cheltenham Trials Day. 18 plus, Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland and UK, online only. Terms and conditions apply, and make sure to gamble responsibly. Tommy, thanks a million for coming on.
Thanks, Johnny.
That was the first renewal of the Irish Edge, sponsored by Boyle Sports. Gamble responsibly this weekend and enjoy a fantastic Trials Day at Cheltenham.